Hello, everyone. Hi. It's December, so I'm getting festive. But instead of reading you a Christmas story, today we're going to be reflecting on my fashion history. Okay. My mom definitely dressed me that day. I had to have been at least 5. And the puppy that I'm holding in the picture is actually my first puppy that I ever got. Her name was Rosie. She was a Beagle and Husky mix, and she was my best friend for many, many years. Um, so I'm probably wearing a matching set in this picture since my mom likely dressed me. I think I'm holding my Barbie lunch bag. That's what that blue strap is. And the shirt is likely a vintage 90s Barbie shirt because this picture was taken in the 90s. And matching pink pants. I was Barbie obsessed as a little kid. Oh my gosh. So, look number 2 was me in high school. I think I was in grade 9, and I do believe in this picture I'm modeling a 1960s wedding dress. There was a vintage store across from the high school that I attended, and I lived at that vintage store. Every break, every lunch hour I got, you can bet I was over there. And eventually I became friends with the business owner, and I modeled some vintage clothes for her, and I also did my co-op placement in high school at her vintage store. So I'm very thankful for those memories. Look number 3. Oh my goodness. This is a little bit embarrassing. I have to say this is probably 2006 or 2007. I'm wearing probably something that was very inspired by the Disney Channel or Ashley Tisdale, because I'm wearing leggings, a long tunic, a sparkly belt, and like one of those scarves. And I do believe underneath the tunic I had a bit of a gold sparkly shirt peeking out to match the gold belt that I have around my my waist. It's probably one of my better outfits in high school. Look number 4. Yes. Um that was actually the next picture. I'll show you the full outfit. It was your classic early 2000s denim jeans, skirt over jeans. I loved a good sweater vest, and I loved a good hoodie, and for some reason I'm wearing both. Yeah. Oh, I wish I had better pictures of this dress. So it was probably one of my very first super fancy dresses I ever got. It was very like frothy tulle, sparkly rhinestones, and I actually had it in my closet for a number of years because I am a sucker for a pretty dress. And I ended up wearing it in 2014 to go to Toronto with some family friends. and we went to see a production by, I think it was called Famous People Players, and it was so great. There was a show and there was dinner afterwards, and we took the train up there and we took the train home. That was actually the first time I'd ever been on a train. I am terrified of trains if I'm not on a train, basically. So the train ride was rather enjoyable. And wearing that dress was just fantastic. I felt like such a princess. Okay, so this dress, I actually made this dress. Originally it was a bridesmaid gown that my mother-in-law had given to me that I think she had in the 80s, I think she said. It was actually floor length and had sleeves, and it was a mess. Quite literally, it was very stained. I had to soak it quite a few times in the tub. But I'm not really a fan of 70s or 80s dresses, so I turned it into something 1950s, 60s inspired by making it shorter. Also, by making it shorter, I was able to cut off the really super stained pieces. And I had enough fabric left over to make a matching bolero. Now, this actually wore to my workplace for like some sort of color day. So I had to wear the bolero for it to be workplace appropriate, but it looks much better without the bolero because it's like got a one shoulder situation going on with a really big ruffle. And I actually still have that dress, and it's one of probably my favorite dresses in my closet, and I just made a purple one that's very similar to it because I love it so much. Oh, number 7 is a really fun one. I don't recall offhand what year I made this, but my mom had given me a bunch of Christmas decorations and they were kind of falling apart, especially the tinsel, and it was a tinsel garland that actually hung up when I was a kid. So I didn't want to throw it out, and I turned it into a dress. I bought just a basic gown to sew the tinsel garland to. And then I added ornaments, and I added a huge bow on the back, and it is such a hit to wear every year. It's so festive. Also, if I remember correctly, the Christmas dress also has lights intertwined throughout it, so it has 4 battery packs underneath the skirt powering the lights. And it's a pretty heavy dress, sheds a lot of sparkles, but it's so much fun to wear. Ooh, okay. So, as some of you may know, the It 1 and 2, like the recently filmed ones, were filmed here in Port Hope. And I was actually afraid of clowns. So Pennywise was a little unnerving for me. And oddly enough, my nightmares inspired me. So I came up with a female Pennywise costume concept. And it turned out so well. And it was just random stuff that I had. The white fabric that you see is actually salvaged from a 1970s wedding dress. The like bands that you see, the trim, it was, I think, pieces of a couch. Then you got the pom-poms because I had some red yarn lying around, and then I made like the neck ruff, just some spare linen and tulle I had lying around. It was just bits and bobs that I had in my craft room, and it was such fun to make. And I even partially made the wig myself. I bought 2 wigs from the dollar store. I think it was like the prior Halloween. And one was red and one was kind of like, it was like a strawberry blonde. So I added in like highlights basically. I sewed in additional wefts because the thing with dollar store wigs, they can be kind of sparse sometimes. So I didn't want my real hair showing through. And that's another thing that's such a hit at around Halloween. I will wear that and people just adore it. I do believe for the grand debut of my female Pennywise costume, I actually wore it to the opening of Tobine's Cat Cafe here in Port Hope. Wait, no, it wasn't the opening. It was their Halloween shindig thing. It was first annual one, and a lot of people showed up wearing cat costumes, and I showed up as female Pennywise. Oh, my Princess Belle costume. So oddly enough, when the Princess Belle, like Beauty and the Beast live action movie came out, I thought people would recognize this costume more. This is the blue village gown that Belle wears, but I based it off of the original cartoon movie, not the live action dress. I wore it for like not only photos in the forest, but also I wore it for Halloween one year. And I don't understand why, but for some reason a lot of people looked at me and thought I was Amish. And I'm like, no, I'm Princess Belle. Like, I get that a lot of people probably recognize her gold or yellow dress, but I was a little annoyed. Like, why do you think it's a good idea to walk up to a person and go, "Are you Amish?" No. But I do love this costume. I basically think I'm Princess Belle. Not really, though. She is my favorite princess, and with this costume, I don't have to wear a wig at all, because it pretty much, my hair is just the right color. Oh my gosh, this is such a fun one. So I think it was 2018, I believe. Me and 2 friends went to the Pretty Heroes convention in Toronto. And this is when it was based out of the Royal Ontario Museum. So with the purchase of a Pretty Heroes convention ticket, you also got admission to the museum, which was so much fun. Unfortunately, we spent so much time in the convention, we barely got to see any of the museum attractions before it closed. But I went as Neo Queen Serenity from Sailor Moon, and it was amazing. I had so much fun. It all went by in a blur, and I even helped my 2 friends make their costumes too, so. Oh my gosh, this is my wedding dress. I made this too. So the base dress I got from the vintage store that I used to model in high school. And it actually used to have a high neckline. I think it was, the shape was called like a boat neck. It wasn't quite a turtleneck, but it was like almost there. And the first thing I did was I turned that into a sweetheart neckline. And then I moved to Belleville and I discovered yard sailing. and I found the perfect lace to trim the sweetheart neckline with, as well as along the ball gown hem. This dress was a mix inspired by like Princess Grace Kelly of Monaco and Princess Diana, because I wanted that really, really long train, really poofy skirt, but classic bodice. Oh, this is my graduation outfit. So instead of going to my actual graduation in Timmins, because it was a bit far for me to travel, my friends and I, we celebrated by going to like the Pretty Heroes convention that I previously mentioned. But we did a separate photo shoot. So one of my best friends made me this pink dress. So I wanted something that was a mix of Elwood's and Princess Diana. So the shape of it is based off of Princess Diana's revenge dress. And the color, of course, is very legally blonde because I went to law school to be a law clerk. My college mailed me a graduation package with like my diploma. I got like a blue sash because I graduated with honors, and then I got my grad cap. Basically, the only thing they didn't mail to me was the grad gown, which I ended up in turn making. Oh my gosh. So this is, I think, from 2019 when I volunteered with what's called the Port Horror Festival. I did 2 costumes actually. This is my first one. This was my Carrie costume. I did my best to find a similar style of prom dress. Thankfully it was white, so I dyed it pink first, and then I gradually ombre dyed the hem of the dress, or at least below the knees, to look like it was just drenched in blood. And then I had a bunch of fake blood as well. That was incredibly sticky though. I need to work on my fake blood recipe because I had to keep pulling the front of my dress away from my body because I used way too much fake blood and it was sticking to me. So I'm definitely going to rethink that if I ever have to wear it again. So this is my other costume from Port Horror. This is my Lydia Dietz red wedding dress. It was actually a huge ball gown that I got from Second Helpings thrift store. I think I only paid $1 for it. I do believe it was part of a dollar sale, and I like pretty much ran home with that dress. Originally I was going to use it to create a Sarah costume from Labyrinth, the ballroom scene where she's wearing like a great big poofy white dress. I was more going towards that, but then when the whole Port Horror thing came along, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna dye this red, cut different layers into the skirt, add a ruffle, and make myself a black wig and be Lydia Dietz. If you're not familiar with Beetlejuice, I really suggest checking it out because it is such a classic. Oh, okay, so this is from Canada Day. I actually won a contest, and oh my gosh, So the contest was, I forget the different categories. I think I picked animals, so I ended up making a paper mache moose and a paper mache beaver. I don't think I have any close-up photos of the beaver. It looked haunted. Don't ever trust me to make a beaver. It will look cursed. But I also matched my dress to the display, and I won first prize in that category. So that included a bag full of goodies. I do believe I got like a Visa gift card or something, a box of cupcakes from Queenie's Bakery, and I think there was something else in the gift bag, but those were the most memorable things because Queenie's cupcakes are just heavenly. After I won the contest and they dropped my prize off, due to it being COVID times, I couldn't like answer the door or whatever. I had to wait until they left, but I still dressed up. I wore this prom dress that I had sitting in my closet for a while. It was so beautiful I had to have it, but I haven't really had anywhere to wear it yet. One day I will. And I wore it for this occasion, and I made sure to take a selfie of getting my prize. And I think I even wore, it wasn't quite a tiara, but it was a bedazzled headpiece. Okay, so this is the Canada Day display that I just talked about. It was a bit madness making that moose, especially. I had like a laundry rack sitting in my bathtub because paper mache is kind of messy. So I was like, okay, I gotta keep this contained to the bathtub where I can definitely clean it really easily. And so this big old paper mache moose was like slowly being built like a week prior to the event, and I used basically all the liquid glue that I had in my house. And the dress was actually a last minute add-on. So I think 2 days before Canada Day, like it was crunch time, and I decided I was going to make this dress. And it turned out marvelous. I even added like pearls and sequins and beads underneath like the sash, so like I had a bit of extra bedazzled. And that display, I was so upset. Like, I'm so glad I had that picture taken by my neighbor, because I think it was an hour after that, I had a knock on my door by someone saying that, hey, your Canada Day display has been just massacred. And I was so heartbroken because I put so much work into making those things, and not even an hour of it being on my front lawn, it got ruined. But oh well, I still won first prize. Oh, okay, so this is a picture of me at Tobine's Cat Cafe. I used to volunteer there, and I also donated a pet bed to them. And I love nothing more than wearing like sweatpants and a comfy sweater. And, well, you can see in this, I am not wearing matching socks. Life is too short for matching socks. Okay, so this, I actually, I made this outfit, and I based it off of something that my grandma was wearing in my grandparents' wedding photo. Now, I realized I look a lot like her, and I thought I'm gonna make an outfit so that I can look even more similar. So I couldn't quite get like the sleeves right, but this was a dress that I'd remade. I got it at a thrift store. It was probably like a 90s style dress. It was very long, and I made it shorter, and I do believe I had to take in the bodice a little, and I added the collar to it. The apron is also a nice add-on. I think that's my apron for my Princess Belle costume, but I do love a multi-use costume piece. So this is a mask that I made during the pandemic. I made many masks and I sold masks, and I went all out with modeling these. This was one of my favorite ones to model. I did like a green eyeshadow and a blue eyeshadow, and it looked just so nice. And I have never been able to do my eyeshadow that nice since. So this dress, oh my goodness. This dress is actually, the base of it, the plaid parts, is from a dress that I had when I was, I think, 8. I was very young. And weirdly enough, this dress fit me until I was like 12, and then I outgrew it. But I still kept it, and I'm glad I did, because I ended up, got a hold of some black fabric, and I added like a pleated skirt piece to the side, and then I added a panel to the back, and I made it my adult size. The alterations were inspired by Alexander McQueen, and I added some like tulle to I think it was lace and tulle that I added to like the bottom of the plaid, and there were like some zippers that I added to the shoulders, and the parts that joined to the plaid, like the black pleated skirt part, I also added some deconstructed zippers along that seam too, because I entered it into a costume contest, or a design contest, which I won, which was also very exciting. I'm very good at winning. The theme was zippers, but you had to like alter something, and I was like, I'm gonna go for some McQueen vibes, and it turned out so good. Okay, so this is another one of my favorites that I've made. It was inspired by a young Queen Elizabeth, and like kind of her sister Princess Margaret, because Margaret was definitely very fashionable. I made this whole outfit, even the shoes. The shoes were actually, I think they were my wedding shoes. So I didn't exactly like make the shoe form itself, but I glued on like a lace overlayer. And I also made matching flats too with the lace for my wedding. And they pair very well with all my vintage outfits, because again, multi-purpose pieces. The coat and the pillbox hat I made out of a set of curtains. The pillbox hat, as much as I say I hate making hats, that's probably the 5th hat I've ever made, and probably not the last hat I'm ever going to make either. So the underdress it's like a pink lace. It was a skirt. It was like a maxi length skirt, but I turned it into a dress, because all I did was I cut the waistband off, and then I cut in like a neck hole shape, and then I cut like the armholes, and then I sewed like the sleeve seams. Very easy peasy. And it is probably one of my most classic outfits, and I usually wear it every August for the week of the Port Hope Arts Festival. So this one is my pride dress. I loved photographing this. I've always wanted like a mermaid style dress, and the base dress I actually bought at, I think it's called Purpose in downtown Port Hope. It's the other thrift store in Port Hope on Walton Street. And it was off of their dollar rack because it was just a super short, probably like semi-formal dress, and it actually didn't even have any rainbow sequins on it until I got my hands on it. I sewed those on all by myself, by hand, and because it was so short, I added a lining extension, and then I added the gray mesh, and turned it into a mermaid dress, just like I've always wanted. Oh my gosh, so this I wore last year, also for the Port Hope Arts Festival in August. And this actually used to be an Indian sari. And I bought it at Second Helpings during their dollar sale, probably like 3 years ago. No, 4 years ago. Like, it was a while ago. They used to have a location on John Street, and before they moved, they did like this huge $1 clear out sale. And I got 2 saris and some tunics. This sari, the green one, unfortunately somebody had tried to use it as fabric and they just cut huge chunks out of it. It was just awful that they did that. And I thought, you know what? They've already used just fabric. And in the Regency era, they actually used saris to make dresses. So that's what I went with. I did a Regency era sari dress. And I did like a matching hat with the scraps as well. And I was a little skeptical about the green color, but it does look very nice. And I think it's one of my top 2 favorite Regency dresses that I have in my wardrobe. Oh, last but not least, we have the tie dress, which I made last year. It started with Second Helpings messaged me and asked if I wanted some ties. They were cleaning out their inventory and I couldn't say no. So I got these ties and I hemmed and hawed about what to do with them for quite some time. And in the end, I ended up buying a semi-formal dress also from Second Helpings. And I cut the dress apart and I sewed some of the ties to the skirt, and then I changed the top up a little bit. I made it so that it ties up the back, and then I added like a rhinestone necklace to the back of it so that you could have like rhinestones draped across your back. And I dubbed it the tie dress, and it turned out so marvelous. It's a very punk 2-piece, and I felt so badass wearing it. But eventually, this dress isn't for keeps. Eventually I'm going to be listing it on my website for sale. And this is a prime example of support local, because I get a lot of my stuff from Second Helpings here in Port Hope, and I'm never disappointed with any of it. Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed me talking about some of the outfits that I've made and that I've worn in the past, and I hope you have some very happy holidays and a Merry Christmas.